Today, we're diving into a topic that is both fascinating and crucial for understanding complex emotional dynamics, and that is the narcissistic collapse. Have you ever wondered what happens when somebody with one of those larger than life egos faces a reality check, or how a seemingly invincible personality can suddenly come crashing down? Did you know that there are times when a narcissist will actually seek out isolation? In this video, we will unravel the mystery behind the narcissistic collapse, what it is, what triggers the collapse, and what the collapse will look like to other people. If you've ever been curious about how fragile the facade of confidence really is with a narcissist, listen till the end of the video. A narcissistic collapse doesn't have one specific definition, but it does refer to a severe psychological breakdown or significant emotional distress that a narcissistic person can experience from time to time. A collapse happens when something ends up going wrong in the life of the narcissist, and it causes them to feel all those feelings that they're trying incredibly hard to avoid: shame, humiliation, and inadequacy, just to name a few. There are some coping mechanisms that a narcissist will put in place to help them dodge these feelings, but when a narcissistic injury, otherwise known as an ego bruise, is inflicted, sometimes it's just too much for this person, and a downward spiral or narcissistic collapse will begin. So let's review some things that can actually trigger a narcissistic collapse. Number 1, threats to a narc's precious little image. The image, how the narcissist sees themselves and how they hope everybody else sees them. That's what this disorder is all about. And then, of course, something happens and they're forced to see that this image is just as fake as they know it is. And of course, this will have bad consequences. Most of the time, these kinds of threats to their image range from being criticized, which will always be seen as a direct threat, things like rejection and failure. Those are going to cause a narcissist more pain than they can handle sometimes, and they just might collapse if it's bad enough that they don't feel like they can recover. Number 2, control loss. Losing power will always make a narcissist feel stupid, outsmarted, and very weak. When they can't control their supply sources, this targets the ego and it lands a direct hit. Control loss happens when people rise up against the narcissist and they refuse to take the treatment. Kids grow up and move away and get away from an abusive parent. Spouses leave, friends bail out, and the like. Narcissists can be such control freaks, they can actually spiral and suffer a collapse after the loss of a loved one, even going as far as to blame the person who's now no longer with us just for disrupting their source of supply, power, and control. Number 3, the fragile self-esteem. I've talked a lot of smack over the years about narcissists. I'm not here to defend them. This is their illness and their problem. However, I truly mean no disrespect to any narcissist when I talk about this. They're weak. They just are. These people are fragile, extremely dependent on other people for emotional support, supply, validation, and even more, like finances and housing. Flat out, they lack resilience, they have poor coping mechanisms, and they can't handle much in life. Again, I really say this meaning no disrespect. These are just the facts. Externally, they can act like a hard ass all they want, but the true internal vulnerability and said lack of strength and resilience can cause these people to crumble. Number 4, cognitive dissonance. So, quick definition, cognitive dissonance is just the state that a person is in when they're having very conflicting thoughts. And this couldn't be more true than for a narcissist who is a walking contradiction of wanting to look strong, but being very weak and being aware of both of these things. Now, strong as they try to be, when evidence is presented to them that goes against, again, that false image and what they've tried to brainwash themselves with, it hurts. Some narcs lack awareness. They don't understand why they're having thoughts and feelings that don't match up. They suffer a collapse as a result of trying to reconcile these thoughts and trying to make them make sense. If you're interested in talking about what you've been going through as a survivor, I provide a chat over the phone service. It's an extremely casual, private place where we can talk as easily as two friends. You can share your story with me, you can vent your frustrations, and we can talk together to help you gain skills and insight as you move along through your journey. You don't have to do this alone. You can click the link at the top of the screen for you now, send a text or an email to get started today. Number 5, the identity crisis. Now, these people have worked very hard and have perfectly curated what they think is the good identity for them to have. A collapse will happen when this is threatened or destroyed. Being exposed, for example, is a very big one. Once everybody knows who this person is and what they're all about, and there's an identity crisis, call it a collapse and the game is over. Number 6, the overwhelm. Narcs have a tendency to overreact, of course, when the ego is harmed. You've seen this, okay? Someone doesn't bow down and worship them, and it ruins their whole day, and they're a complete mess. This overwhelm and influx of emotions is something that not a lot of narcs can be used to. This is very daunting. It's overwhelming and challenging, and this can actually cause a collapse. So what does it actually look like when a narcissist is experiencing a narcissistic collapse? Let's go over some of the signs that a narcissist might display if they're kind of in the middle of one of these things. We have to start with the obvious one, and that's anger and rage. A narc might be prone to have an explosive outburst, perhaps even more than one. And rest assured, nobody is safe either. These people can erupt on you, others, animals, hell, inanimate objects. They might slam something, throw things around. You might see them taking it out on the dishwasher. Really, who knows? This lashing out, wildly like they do, might be done in a yelly, screamy fashion as they're blame shifting and projecting those uncomfortable feelings onto others. A narcissist might actually get very depressed when they're in a spiral and a collapse. Common signs of depression in any person are feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, and of course a very deep sadness. They might no longer find joy in things they used to. Even abusing people, controlling people, hoovering supply sources might not bring them the joy that it used to because they're suffering from depression. Believe it or not, if a narcissist is having a collapse, they can actually withdraw, retreat, and isolate themselves when something bad has happened to them and they're struggling to make it right in their minds and they just don't know what to do. They'll no longer be social. They'll avoid interactions. In some cases, they might not even be looking for new forms of supply. A lot of the time, a narcissist will retreat from outside society and hang out online if they're hanging out at all. Another sign is a narcissist might become extremely paranoid as a result of an injury so badly that they're just struggling. And you may notice some hypersensitivities with this person as well. Unfortunately, a narcissist can become very self-destructive, as if they weren't, their own worst enemy already. Narcs are by nature immature, impulsive, and neglecting little creatures. This can ramp up and spiral out of control. Things like drinking, drugs, substance abuse, risky sexual behavior, excessive spending, and in some cases, they might resort to crime. The inability to cope can lead them to neglecting their home, their jobs, their kids, and more. Most of the time, a narcissist is going to try to make themselves feel better any way they can. And this can lead to hasty decisions, again, impulsive decisions, and a desperation for supply. They might begin to actually act more cocky and bold to try to recover from an ego bruise. In times like this, it's really not all that uncommon that a narcissist will dive deeper into the delusional world, that they're already living in every day. The unrealistic thinking, the delusional thinking, allows the narcissist to justify their behavior and make them feel like everything they've done is okay, even if it's something very wrong. You're going to deal with things like instability as this walking contradiction tries to put themselves right again. Mood swings, inconsistency, like these people don't already act this way pretty much daily. And let's not forget the passive-aggressive behavior as well. They can go after revenge, become very retaliatory, ignorant, immature, the defensiveness will escalate. And you might wonder, how long will something like this last? And that's something that is just extremely difficult to predict. So if this is something that you're trying to sort out in your mind, I want you to consider some of the following variables if you're trying to figure this out. Firstly, the severity of the collapse. Was it mild or completely horrific for them? How do they cope? What are their skills? Are they tough? Are they resilient? Do you see them coping? Are they doing these things more often? How much other supply is available for them to feed on as they heal? Are you notice them maybe becoming reclusive and hiding away? Well, it might be worse than you think. Are they aware of this? Do they have any insight? What are the current stressors? You know what? Don't bother trying to figure out how long this will last. As always, if you have the ability to get away from these people, get away from these people. And if not, stay as far away as you possibly can. Narcissistic collapses are typically very intense and very disruptive, but again, not permanent. Did you notice maybe in your own situation a narcissist going through a collapse or a downward spiral? If you would like, feel free to share what you witnessed down in the comments. I invite you to become a channel member and support my efforts to raise awareness about narcissism here on YouTube. Your monthly pledge entitles you to have your name here with these other lovely survivors. You get access to some videos of mine, and for the most dedicated survivors, you get a private chat with me once a month. Thank you for the consideration. Have a great day, survivor, and take care of yourself.